about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Oh, extra long. I don't know how it feels special. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
With Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you have heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one Agent_70.
What's up, everybody?
My time is up. He's up to Brooklyn.
I was gonna reserve that for like some kind of sign off, but since we kind of do at least for the time being Wakanda Forever, I figured I'd sneak it in now.
Good, pretty good. And we'll be talking about some Wakanda a little. But for right now, you can find this here on the Cold Southern Podcast Network. That's cpn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this at your podcast portal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither, the Cold Slither Podcast Network, SoundCloud. Sometimes you trip. Stone. But yeah, you can also find us recording here on the Click Nations YouTube channel or like twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicle.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and give us all the 5-star reviews.
All that. But tonight on this show, we're going to start off like we do with the comic books and we're going to start off with actually fun one in Avengers Mech Strike #1.
Right. Avengers Mech Strike #1 is written by Jed McKay, a favorite around these parts, with art by Carlos Magno, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. And believe it or not, this is actually a potential click of the week on my part.
No doubt. I can see that. So this whole, I don't know about you, because I don't know how much, I feel like you've watched Avengers Earth Mighty, correct?
I have.
And probably also Avengers Assemble. I don't know if you watched that one.
Yeah, the when they I can't remember I mean, I know that they changed the intro, and I forget what else I remember them changing that I kind of missed going forward.
Right.
There was something there was definitely something about the show that changed.
Yeah,
that missed. No, I would say that I missed from the earlier versions to the second iteration.
Yeah, it was a slightly different team because they had like Falcon and definitely a couple of. But I say all that to say that this issue of Avengers Mech Strike kind of felt like an episode of Avengers.
Okay.
Because of the kind of the way it played out, like at least to me, and I don't know why it came to that because I haven't seen it in a minute, and I don't, as far as I know, you know what? That sounds like something that probably would saying that whether it did not.
Gotcha.
Because basically, you know, the short strokes is not to give it too far away. Like the name suggests what ends up happening. Not like that. Spoiler secret.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's in the name. It's on the cover. So the spoilers are few and far in between here, at least in at this point, because for any seasoned comic book reader, this seems like a ploy to sell action figures and toys.
Or or be the lead into a video game.
That as well. I was about to say that's more of a newer that's more of a newer version of the same idea of merchandising, launching a comic to help with promoting merchandise. The reason why this felt, I mean, well, I guess one thing that this harkened back to me to, I was asking Roddykat just before the show started whether or not he had watched any of the Marvel 616 documentary shows on Disney Plus, and he had said no. And without spoiling what happens in one of them, there's I just pulled it up on Disney Plus. It's episode 4. It's the title is Lost and Found, and the host is comedian Paul Scheer. And the idea behind this mini documentary is Paul Scheer is on the hunt to learn about the forgotten characters of Marvel Comics, right? And one of the driving ideas behind, or at least behind the but behind at least part of the documentary is that Marvel Comics has a history of putting out some actually surprisingly good comics based on licensing ideas, because they are trying to license out, toys and action figures, and now Roddykat has thrown in the acknowledged next step of that, which is video games. And obviously they talk in the documentary about Secret Wars, being being created as a comic to promote the Kenner action figures, or Mattel. Actually, I know, I think they were Kenner.
I think they
The
were
Kenner
Kenner,
action
yeah.
figures, right? The Kenner Secret Wars line.
Mhm.
And whatnot, and and just going for, obviously GI Joe and Transformers, the various licensed um, properties that led to pretty successful comic book runs in the 80s. That's definitely a big part of this documentary episode, and that's what this comic book made me think of. I thought, wow, are they really going in that direction? Are they trying to sell us action figures and toys? But what was great about this book is that it's undeniably fun.
True.
And believe it or not, there's even a semi-plausible reason for the team to actually put on the specialized mech suits.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you did say, yeah, you did say semi-plausible. So yeah, we'll definitely go with that. Because my whole thing reading this, it was like, yeah, all right. I know they needed to get from A to why they need kind of got there, but it was like that seemed like, even in that, it kind of seemed, with the exception of one part of what the mechs were made out of, like, no, it seemed like it's not going to help the situation. I'm going to find out in battling the thing has them going up against this.
Right. I mean, we've made jokes. I know I specifically made jokes about this book. I don't know if it was on the air or it might have been off the air in the lead up to the publication of this book. We definitely talked about it, maybe in solicits or during the news, and we couldn't figure out why the Thor and or Hulk and or Captain Marvel specifically, three of the acknowledged heaviest hitters on the Avengers roster, and three of the heaviest hitters amongst the entire Marvel Comics roster of heroes and villains. What on earth they would need mech suits, when it comes to when it comes to combating any sort of menace. And of course, they create some sort of semi-plausible reason to put it on, to require them to have them on.
Yeah, which goes back to why I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, this is totally the plot of a video. Like, we know Marvel Strike Force is out there. Obviously, the multiverse, they don't need that big of a reason outside of comics to do anything. But like, this just like a game, which, you know what, I'd be here for it if they did do it. But we don't, as far as we know, there isn't a thing like that moment or any.
Right. And harkening back to what Roddykat mentioned as he was introducing the book, the story actually has the team dynamic that I think most younger readers want to read about, which has some drama, but not so much drama that actually it would lessen the fun that you would have in reading the book. There's definitely, you can definitely tell that there's some tension between the characters. There's a hint of possible infighting or at least tension between some characters, but at the end of the day, it's all they kind of put things aside for the greater good, and they pull together. And there's obviously hints of the movie, but there's also hints of the movies, but also hints of the current continuity as well.
Right. I mean, the obvious addition and exception, that being that Spider-Man is on the team, who has been an Avenger, so that's not saying that, but is not currently, doesn't intend to stay on a team that very long either. But
Right.
Some of that was what H70 was talking about, kind of comes out of. But also, anytime Spidey's actually nervous. So, and that's not the only thing I'm assuming he's talking about. One of the, but yeah, that was the whole dynamic between them. Is kind of why I went with the Avengers Assemble thing, because it kind of plays out like how they would interact in one of those episodes, any of those episodes.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely a fun read. Like I said, I wasn't really taking it too seriously and for what it was, but it ended up being 76. Surprisingly, one of the better. There's a couple of them for me, but this one just kind of in there.
Right. Just no Hawkeye.
Yeah, that was an interesting omission there.
Well, because Spidey kind of steps into that slot.
True. Right.
So.
Right, because we're in Avengers Assemble and had Hawkeye.
Well, and obviously, Captain Marvel plays a bigger role here, whereas in the Avengers cartoon, she doesn't play nearly that big a role, and obviously in the movie, she doesn't come until Endgame, basically.
Correct. Yeah, you gotta throw your bigger names in there, and luckily were actually already associated. Yeah, there you go. Check it out. If there is anything that ends up coming up out of this, like a storyline or an obvious storyline or something like that, no.
Right. And shout out to the art by Carlos Magno on this, because it is sharp. The faces, at least the faces for Cap, I had a little bit of a problem with, but other than that, the art was super clean and detailed and modern. We're not taking we're not jumping in a time vortex back to the 90s or anything like that. It definitely does have a modern feel to it, but it's still super sharp. And actually, and I was going to say, before we move on, actually follows a little continuity. I appreciated the fact that the Avengers actually didn't make it out of that first skirmish with the creature that first battle with the creature that they run into unscathed.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, they
that's right.
actually come out with one character in a sling, at least for a little while.
What is a which? Well, I was about to say, given the character, I was about to say, how is that person functioning? Heck, but then first place, pretty sure they figured that out, or had a hand in the design, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, this is cool. Check it out if you. But I guess from that logical step, go in other Avengers book.
That's
That being
Avengers 42.
that is correct.
It's written by Jason Aaron with art by possible newcomer Luca Maresca, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit.
So in my notes, I pretty much have it like this. This is pretty much how the last few kind of go, but lots of monologues and lots of planning and fighting. Pretty much makes obviously one of the kind of contest of buying for, not even buying, both fighting for the Phoenix, but also trying to figure out how to get out.
Right.
I pretty much said the same thing I said in our back channel about a certain character, about why, which we know he's going to be an Eternal. So I get that. Every now and then, Marvel has a tendency. He's Black Knight. We're just going to put him in. Like it happens every decade. At least this decade, at least this time, they have a reason. But it's, like, granted, Black Knight is kind of one of those. Right, he was not one of.
Right. I mean, we'll get into that when I talk about the book. I actually did read it, and it's actually a surprising potential click of the week for me. Probably for the same reasons that PCN underscore dirt wasn't really a fan. But with regards to this book, as Roddykat said, it is still kind of following the same formula of the last couple of issues, but there is a head scratching cliffhanger page reveal that appears to, at least for now, obviously it's a cliffhanger, page reveal at the end of the book, but at least for now, it seems to retcon part of Thor's past that is actually adapted from Norse mythology. So we'll see if, in fact, this sticks. But uh, you can tell that in this issue, they are the characters within the tournament are looking to figure out a way to get out of the situation that they're in. I called it they're trying to game the tournament, but it's not working. So, or at least according to the uh, prescribed rules of engagement that they have right now, they really can't get around them. So.
Right, but of course, it's pretty much insert. Going to run into a head of that part. Actually, going to curious. I'm slightly curious how or what they're going to do.
Seems kind of obvious to me, but
Yeah.
you know, because we kind of know, unfortunately, based on the tagline for the event, the Heroes Reborn event, that we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, and that's been being pushed in announcements by Marvel. We kind of have an idea of what is going to be the result of this particular tournament.
Yeah. But I mean, but at the point where that's going to come.
How we get there is another story.
But we're still on that, and I don't think that's longer now. No, like I said, I am the one who say enjoyed the ones who saw. The curiosity is, especially sometimes when there are certain stories like.
Hmm.
Hopefully. But unless we got something else to say about Avengers 4,
Nope.
What's next?
we can push on to and talk about the other talked about book in one way, shape, or form from this week. Being Immortal Hulk number 43.
Sure. Mortal Hulk number 43 as always is written by Al Ewing with pencils by Joe Bennett, inks by Rui Jose and Belardino Bravo, and colors by Paul Mounts, and as usual, letters by VC's Corey Pettit. Yeah, this is being talked about for all the wrong reasons. This is something that I didn't discover on my first reading. I don't know if you noticed this on your first reading.
I did by chance of the fact that I saw the news first.
I did not see the news first. So all I did was read the book. And it happens to, refer to something that is depicted in a smaller panel, right? It's not a splash page. It's a smaller panel, but it's hard to believe that that there wasn't some sort of intent behind it, and it's hard to believe that it actually made it through several layers of creators and editorial. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
So, this, it's a pretty, and I don't know if you have a news story behind it.
I do.
So, it's a pretty serious screw up regarding, a panel with that pretty much has anti-Semitic signage.
Mm.
But all that notwithstanding, it was still a pretty good issue.
Right.
At least from my point of view, because it features some insight into Joe Fixit, into how Joe Fixit really helped Banner survive over the years. It has Gamma Flight making a discovery that's going to lead, that's going to help propel the book forward, and the UFOs show up in force.
Yeah, it's actually kind of sad that I'm not sitting here saying like the book is, like obviously we've been on top of continued. This is a pretty good issue with that, but kind of sad things.
Right, that it's in the news for that. Exactly.
Right.
That it's in the news, that people are paying more attention to it. You would hope that. And my understanding is that without going back and consulting the numbers, Immortal Hulk is one of their better titles, just from our point of view, and in terms of readership. I believe Immortal Hulk has got a pretty good following, and that's really a really, it's a shame that people are looking at this and reacting to, admittedly is something that's pretty, it's pretty serious. It's pretty bad. Taken as a whole, taken as a whole, it's a pretty bad situation.
Yeah. It's also quite possibly one that certain people overlook.
I overlooked it. I read right past it.
Yeah.
I read right past it. My first reading through, and the funniest part is that one, it's a small panel.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Reading it in the course of reading a comic book, I glossed over it. And the funniest part is that my mind, and we all know that the brain does tend to do this. My mind completed words that may not have had all of the letters that were there in front of me, because that's what you expect to see.
Right.
You
But
know, I forget what that phenomenon is called, but it's common. You know, it's something that everyone understands, that the brain sometimes completes words uh, without all the letters being present, because that's what you expect to read, or you're kind of reading past it. You know, you're reading past what's being presented to you.
right. But well, not even a but. Like part of me feels like, and I'm not making any excuse for the art choice that was done here by no means, but I feel like if you were watching a movie and a scene like this kind of played out, I feel like partially, like within one part of it, like obviously there's another part of it that's kind of a little more glaring on it than not, but still could be looked past. Like you wouldn't think anything of it because we're like, no, you just and like it's almost like what you're saying here. Like, yeah, you'll see that and like you wouldn't much of it because like, well, that's where they are and what what that you're looking at, like that hard to see, except for probably got um and it probably be smaller than probably the difference of it's a weird choice to do. Bad choice. Like saying something.
Right. Inkers, colorists, and editors, essentially. You know, there's literally two inkers on this book and a colorist, and they all have, you know, part of it is, there's no longer a Marvel bullpen. All this stuff is being done digitally. So there's really no one looking over someone's shoulder. And unless the inker is really looking for it, or the colorist is really looking for it, 5 will get you 10, they'll gloss over it the same way my eyes did.
Mm-hmm. And only people who are like just poring over each panel and each part of a panel to look for, because it's not outside the realm of possibility that Easter and whatnot happened in the book. Like we know when Marvel, like that happened on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
Like little Easter eggs would put into the backgrounds. Something like that. Then there are people who would probably pour over stuff there. This one case, or maybe who. Like I said, if you're looking for something and happen to catch it, that's one thing. If you're not looking for something, that's kind of something probably someone else should have. But here
Well,
we
yeah,
are.
I mean, like I said, at the very least, the inkers and the colorist, even for editorial.
Anything else out of that, or at this point, we'll again
Yeah,
we'll
it's
talk.
a shame because one, their run is almost over.
Right. But
And
also,
that's really
I mean,
that's really a hard thing to, as a reader who's been as readers that have been following this series since Jump, that's a hard thing to swallow as you make it through to the end of the series.
the other thing about it is, there's been it's going to affect him getting after the round effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, like I said, we'll be talking about this. Else,
No, that's pretty much it.
yeah, like I said, you folks are pretty much doing their thing you said about Joe. That whole whole other situation. Camouflage. But that being, oh yeah, so yeah, the part of because there was something that I did bring up about Banner's in the world thing that Joe was talking about, and I can't help but note that section found out is zero. I don't know if any of that is going to play in the rest of the Immortal Hulk or not, but I'm just kind of curious. Obviously, we know what's going to happen, and it's going on now with the. I don't know. That being said, you got a book you want to put out?
Let's see what you read. We can do. Well, considering that Roddykat is averse to reading anything dealing with King in Black, I'll leave that for rapid fire. How about we do Strange Academy number 8? This issue, hot on the heels of Strange Academy number 7, which was out last week.
All right, yeah.
It's written by Scotty Young, with art by Humberto Ramos, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. This is another potential click of the week for me. In this issue, we have a spoiler alert, like literal spoiler alert, because it was in last week's issue. I'll ring the bell. We have a bunch of storylines going on, believe it or not. There's plenty of stories and subplots that get moved forward in this issue. We get newly resurrected Doyle. He's got to be debriefed and go through therapy.
Yeah.
We have a group of students who are off world with Kana, of all people.
I was happy to see that.
Is a professor at the Strange Academy. And for those of you that don't remember Kana, she is the thief / archaeologist type, kind of like a Dr. Aphra type, that was introduced in the pages of Mark Waid's Doctor Strange. And she is returned to retrieve a magical artifact that she had contracted with Rocket and Groot to steal, but then they lost it, and now they have to go and retrieve it. So Rocket and Groot make an appearance in this book as Kana's teacher's aides for the day. Following along with the idea that this is still a school. Another group of students have a class with one Agatha Harkness, while she may or may not be out messing with Wanda and the Vision in New Jersey somewhere. And surprisingly in this issue, kind of touching directly upon something that we noted in the previous issue, which came out last week, Doctor Strange shows a little bit of emotional maturity, at least when it comes to dealing with young students.
Right, he
And
basically forgot where.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, he basically, as his explanation was, he pretty much forgot who he was talking to, which for him, that's saying a whole lot, because talks to people.
Yeah, it's growth. It's growth.
Mhm.
It's character development. I think if I recall from last week's show, I chalked it up to kind of shifting out of the operating room and getting into like the scolding grown up role, I guess. It was a pretty rough transition for Doctor Strange and the way he had to deal with Emily Bright. was he was definitely in the wrong on that, and we find him in this issue trying to make amends, and for real reasons as well.
Right.
Having to reach out to her and try to mend fences because there's a real reason for him to do that as well.
Which actually ended up being kind of adorable. With at the tail end of their conversation, because obviously he needed to talk to her because there was still some stuff going on with her situation. With one Doyle kind of back in the way he came in, her part in that, and apparently was a thing from last. But yeah, it's like going back to the whole Doctor Strange talking to people. Like, you know what? I'm as an adult, like his reasoning was sound in this case, but I'm sitting here like, well, if I was one of the Avengers, who by the way, one of which shows up in the course of this,
right?
If like you're talking to me like that, I'm an adult. Is like, all right, yeah, we would have words as this character would be. But that being that aside, kind of but it makes sense. But yeah, I enjoyed Strange Academy for this. I usually do. And the only other thing I was kind of wondering about was like, I have heard this name Dead Girl before. You know that character?
From the Ecstatics, from X-Force.
I should.
You didn't recognize her?
No,
I mean, I didn't really read those issues, but that is from the Mike Allred.
Okay, that makes a whole lot more sense then. Okay, yes, I never read Ecstatics. So, but I was like, I knew, like I said, I feel like the person came from somewhere, and I'm like, I feel like I've seen that name before, and it probably in relation. That would make.
Mm.
And I didn't go back and do the well, my dead girl instead of woman though. But regardless,
Right.
that was the whole thing. I'm like, that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I enjoyed that story. I assume they reason why we're getting back to back books was because we know.
Right. Yeah, Peter Milligan and Mike Allred, and Laura Allred on the Ecstatic stuff. I remember when that came out.
I was that. It wasn't.
Right. I mean, I definitely wasn't reading X-Force at the time. I actually inherited. I was gifted. I didn't inherit because this person didn't die. Right. I was gifted a run of X-Force that contained these issues. So I do have the Ecstatic's first appearance of my collection.
Was it X-Force or X Factor?
X-Force.
Oh, okay.
And it became Ecstatics. Oh, okay. But it was in like a later era of X-Force.
Interesting. Almost like what New Force.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Cool. That being said, though, I guess if we got nothing else that pertinent you want to put up there, we can go to rapid fire.
Sure, we'll rapid fire this. Go. Alrighty. Alrighty, so I will run through the rest of my books. I don't think we have too much overlap except for maybe one more book. Deep Beyond, #1. This is an Image book. It's written by Mirka Andolfo and David Goy. Art by Andrea Brocardo. Colors by Barbara Nocenzo, and letters by Fabio Emilia. This actually has a story of a post-apocalyptic vision that involves the ocean and the rest of the environment becoming too toxic for humanity. Something happens. Some event happens that causes humanity to create tech and shelter to protect itself. The art involves some body horror slash biological horror that results from exposure. It's an interesting premise, and the art is what makes you kind of get a little queasy. But the story is involving, and I would recommend it because it definitely has a strong sense of mystery to it. So we will see where that goes after this issue. Next up, I'm going to cover 3 King in Black books, but not the main Venom book because uh, it does come, but it will come up later on. First for me is King in Black, Gwenom versus Carnage #2. It's written by Sean Maguire with art by Flaviano and I.G. Guara, colors by Rico Renzi, and letters by VC's Ariana Mayer. During their fight, typos as we go, Gwen learns that and when I say her MJ, it's her universe's MJ, bears some resentment towards her, and she also briefly confronts Null. So there is some movement in this, and as a quick reminder, because this is written by Sean and Maguire, there is some evidence that this mini series is going to prove to be part of the overall Ghost Spider continuity. And I may have to go back and either get this as a collection or make sure I'm able to track these down and put them into my collection. I haven't been able to pull them just yet. Now that we have 2 issues out now, I may have to track them down. But yeah, anyone who's following Ghost Spider may need to track down these issues of Gwenom versus Carnage. Next up is King in Black, Black Knight #1. It's written by Simon Spurrier with art by Jesus Saiz, which is always solid. Jesus Saiz is always solid, and you can look forward to his solid artwork. Letters on this book are by VC's Corey Pettit. This is a surprise potential click of the week for me, believe it or not. I need to get a sound drop of that. Believe it or not. This was a crazy one-shot with Dane Whitman, Arrow, and Swordmaster taking on and defeating an avatar of Null. We also get some serious character study and possible character rehabilitation for Dane after years of the character being downtrodden. And a little bit of insight into our back channel discussions, folks. One of our other panelists did not like this book because of because of the tone that was struck in the storytelling, as well as possibly how the Black Knight character was being treated in the story. I got a kick out of it. It was lighthearted, but at the same time done as a way to move the Black Knight character towards some form of character rehabilitation, because he really has been on some downtimes, and a lot of it does stem from his days on the Avengers and some of the effects of his interactions with one Cersei of the Eternals, which is obviously going to come up during the Eternals movie. So at the end of the day, I think this is at least some way of and I don't use the word rehabilitation lightly. This is some way of rehabilitating this character to make to kind of put some of what's happened to the character over the last several years into a context and kind of compartmentalize it away and have the character move forward. So we will see how that goes with the Black Knight one shot, also written by Simon Spurrier, coming out next month. Oh, actually, no, I think it's a miniseries. I don't think it's a one shot.
Yeah, I think it is a miniseries. And I would go so far as to say, in our show notes in the clip, there is an interview with I thought there was a writer of or out.
Yeah, yeah, Simon Spurrier. Right, because at the very end of this issue, they lead you with they lead into up next, Dane's adventures following King in Black will continue in an all-new series by Simon Spurrier and Sergio Davila, covers by Stormbreaker Ivan Coelho. So yeah, that's on sale March 17th.
Oh, actually,
Oh,
yeah,
they already know, they're leading right into it.
yeah, actually, yeah. Either way,
All right. Next up, my last King in Black book is Return of the Valkyries #2 with it's written by Jason Aaron and Torun Grunbach, art by Nina Vacueva, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. Danny Moonstar is fighting off Null's forces in New York while Jane and the unnamed Valkyrie visit Valhalla and we out of nowhere, pun intended, get the origin of nowhere, the space station. You don't expect that to happen in this issue.
right, and I thought we would have that already.
Well, we have the origin. We know what nowhere is.
Right.
But in a sense, we don't. There's a primary concept behind nowhere. We have to get from A to B to a space station of a floating celestial head. So in this case, we actually find out how we get from A to B to that. We have Jane gathering more forces. We know what the eventual the ultimate idea behind this book is that the Valkyries are reformed after what happened to them at the beginning of War of the Realms. While the unnamed Valkyrie quests to regain, spoiler alert here, the unnamed Valkyrie quests to regain Yarnbjorn. Up until now, what we understood to be Thor's old axe, but there seems to be more story behind it. And last for me, and I believe Roddykat also read this, is Star Wars High Republic #2. I had the opportunity this week to catch up, and I'd skimmed High Republic #1, but with #2 out, I reread #1 just so that I could put the characters into their proper context. This book is written by Cavan Scott, with art by Ario Anindito, inks by Mark Morales, and colors by Annalisa Leone, and letters by VC's Ariana Mayer. Keith Trennis, newly minted Jedi Knight, is on her first mission as a Jedi with former master and twin Jedi. And it all goes south after they find a dead Hutt. And when I say a dead Hutt, I'm talking about dead, Jabba the Hutt, or Pizza the Hutt, or, you guys know what I'm getting at. You get a dead Hutt, and things go bad after that.
Yeah, so I basically said as far as those the Jedi twin, I call them the Jedi Crimson twin.
Oh, that's one way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they pretty much do the same thing. Tomax the same I do. They're finishing just pain and all that kind of good. But yeah, there's not really much else to add to this except for the fact that we are introduced, or at least we don't necessarily get introduced, but they talk about big bad that I know if you've been of the if you've seen any of the talk around what's going on in High Republic, one of the big bads are called the Neil, and they get Princeton here of being perpetrators of happened to the Hut, and that the Jedi are investigating. But we also find out that there's probably something wrong with something going on. Also, kind of get hints issue. Happened to him on a mission. Have not referenced. Oh yeah, we also get first signs of Bacta. Well, I mean, obviously, this apparently Bacta being on the come up. So in as far as lore, a thing. Across it here. Yeah, good read.
All right, you're up.
Yep. And for my books, and I actually apologize ahead of time because all of the books is so that being said, the Legend of the Legend of Shang-Chi. Good Lord, what's going on? #1, written by Alyssa Wong, artist Andy Tong, colors by Rachel Rosenberg, and lettering by VC Lanham. Shang-Chi gets tasked by Leiko to soul stealing sword and runs into Lady Deathstrike doing the exact thing. And apparently this is all leading up to, not leading up, apparently something out of that confrontation is going to come back up. But it was a good read. I enjoyed it. It was a pretty. I've been enjoying reading. Star Wars #11, written by off the top of my head.
Oh, by the way, before you move on, I did read that the Legend of Shang-Chi book, and what's funny is that Lady Deathstrike, when Alyssa Wong writes into Lady Deathstrike's dialogue, is exactly what we were all thinking, or at least what I was thinking.
Mhm.
Like, wait a second, this is Lady Deathstrike. Like, she's taking on,
Oh, yeah.
some of the baddest customers in the Marvel universe, specifically one adamantium bone laced. Adamantium laced bone having, claw having, healing factor having Wolverine, and how does Shang-Chi stack up to this? And obviously he stacks up very well, but there's some dialogue in there that obviously, I want to say it was before she breaks out the adamantium claws herself.
Mhm.
And it's funny that she actually keeps them sheathed for a while before, as they're I guess measuring each other, as fighters are wont to do. She keeps them sheathed until I guess she needs them to press an advantage. So it's it's interesting to see Alyssa Wong literally write that into the story as we're all thinking it.
Yeah, I like I said, yeah, that whole the whole confrontation between the two, I enjoyed. Have any or what of it?
A tease for more, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. But Star Wars #11, written by Charles Soule, artist and Aldua, colorist Rosenberg, and lettering by VC. Orlando imposed that. So basically, this is at the end of the last issue. Which, are you up on this?
I'm a little bit behind, but I know where we are because
Gotcha.
I skimmed the previous issue.
Gotcha. So yeah, this is pretty much taken up after the Starlight Squadrons ran into a little bit of trouble. And meanwhile, back at the for kerfuffle going on because pretty much killing Obot when this bot's gonna die, and that's my priority. Yeah, stammering. Okay, O's dad is like, my wife's still kind of out there. Um. Meanwhile, like I said, while Starlight Squad was out there fighting against firefighters, and I loved it because there was a Rogue Squadron reference. I think happened this soon, but talking about the video game and not the actual squad. But Wedge is in here like that. But I do love the way that the resolution of actually of both problems, but it ends without giving too much away. It some with the Rebel Alliance actually trying to on the upper hand, going after some. There was also another thing that there was a little seemed like a throwaway line, but actually remember the fact that 3PO does something to kind of save the day on one part of it. Mentions that, oh yeah, my whoever made me, in their whatever wisdom, pretty much made me to, or be able to learn the situation. Oh yeah, I forgot. He doesn't know that Anakin built him because his mind got wiped.
Right.
So that was the kind of thing that was like, oh right, yeah, that's cool. Bring back up. That being the case, yeah, start with that was that. See. So Far Sector number 10, written by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is writer, artist, and colors. Excuse me, an artist in Campbell, lettering by Darren Bennett. So Joe gets caught while investigating in a meme sweatshop being called, and then apparently someone she knows and been dealing with it been not only aware of it but owns the sweatshop. Claims they did things were going on with. And at the end of this, we come to find out that there is a real world parallel with something that is going on in this, as in vote tampering, in long lines for voting, because on the other side of this, supposed to be voted on same time. And actually, weirdly enough, a coup ends up starting at the end, which these books are written like months ahead of time. So with what has recently actually happened in the real world, it's kind of a weird foresight.
Right. We're not talking about Myanmar, folks.
Right. So like
although that really did just happen.
Right. So it was kind of a weird thing to see that happening in the book that just came out when something like this books like this 4 to 6 months in it popping up now right after. But this is still a good reading, and I think from what I'm understanding, this book might be about to end in a couple of issues. I thought it was. So if you are interested in adventures of one Joe Moline Lantern, who's far off place from, and actually this is probably still taking place for like this is kind of in the present where Justice League, but yeah. Unless they did actually make it into an ongoing series. I keep seeing that they it, but I'm not haven't gotten any. Regardless, next book is state the next Batman 3. Written by John Ridley, art by Lara Braga, breakdowns by Nick Darrington, and colors by Arif Priya. Yeah, so I was reading this book and have been catching up with other future books. Like I read, like a couple days ago, I read the Nightwing book, and a certain thing happens in that book that kind of made me feel they're doing the same thing and not like the happened last. But that being said, I was legit thinking that the couple that shows up in his Batman book, one and the same, goes after Nightwing in his future stuff. It is not, but a similar thing does kind of end up happening, just not for the same reason. There's references to the future Dark Detective in this, and there's some talk with other characters about whether the law is just. Interesting argument with Lucian's wife about that, where kind of what we know about the character. Also know Enterprise has something to do with interested how the which also doesn't play out in Dark Detective because what I remember catching up with that was like there was a couple of companies that show up in that book that apparently going after none of them Wayne Enterprises, although Wayne Enterprises is. We do know that the Gotham stuff still seems to come to light. But at the end of it, the people Batman were quietly. Hey, Wonder Woman number 5.
What happened?
Nothing. Joel Jones, the writer, artist. Jody Belair, colors, and Clayton lettering. So pretty much Wonder Woman heads into the world to Hades on the thing. Asks, sure, you could do your thing, but you first. Which, if anybody playing video games knows the video game Hades, which is also takes place in the underworld and has to do with people surrounding Hades. Kind of you can read cards of slightly different, far off. So it's kind of funny to read that and play that game. But apparently it goes a certain way. Last but not least is Transformers Beast Wars number 1. Folks. The book is written by Eric Burnham. Arts by. Oh wait, no, I have this one. Eric Burnham written the book. Art by Josh Burcham, and letters by Jake. So we get the peek at Galavar, aka Megatron, who come to find out from the series. We find out his initial plan. Like you watch the Beast, kind of know this is pretty much before everything happens. Get his plan, and it seems to pretty much go through his plan to steal it, and even his eventual meeting in with, or he and the Predacons meet Maximal Optimus Prime, or excuse me, Optimus Primal. That set pretty much sets up the beginning of the show. In fact, kind of goes into that proper. So this is definitely playing off of that, but not the same. So this is kind of a different take on what happened in that first. But also, there's even a few more bots that are not in the that show here. So this is, like I said, and I enjoyed it actually. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of this. Art actually kind of goes a little, it's a kind of sketchy, and I don't mean sketchy in a bad way, like the style of it. But it works for them. And the portrayals of the characters that you kind of know from the series are pretty much like what they are, with the exception of like Optimus Primal kind of seems a little antsy, but we do get a little bit more into or what we would think his going into. Because if you watch that show like I did, like some of it seemed like he while he is the leader of this group that is attached to the thing, burden of lead on him and takes on a different light on what it about, or maybe the same feelings. Like it would kind of make sense, like going to the proper. You could even tell in the show, I think. So yeah, if you're interested in that, definitely check. That is better or the books. Clicks of the week.
All right, clicks of the week.
We got 2 clicks of the week from our other host. Dirt's is Man Bat number 1. Says Man Bat made me Langstrom for the first time in ever, and the art reminded me of Norm. That, and for him, after some consideration, Venom number 3. I guess he's saying it was good art on it.
I mean, we know that Tim Dog 98 has been following this Venom relaunch since its inception, and obviously has been following this, the eventual, the development of this King in Black storyline from Go. So, it's no surprise that that he's been that he is has been willing to stick with this book for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
At least knowing that now.
Right.
When I read this book, it was, and what's difficult for me, and maybe I'm a little bit too much of a stick in the mud when it comes to characters being reformed into heroes from villains or from anti-heroes. There is a concerted effort in this book and the series overall to transform Eddie Brock into a quote unquote hero. And it just doesn't jive with me. I just remember where the character started, and it just doesn't, that doesn't fly with me. Well, and part of the gist behind the book is that it's, you have to take the good and the bad, it's the Facts of Life theme song all over again, right? But I still can't get that stuff out of my head. So it's weird. It's definitely, and obviously the idea of Venom being an anti-hero and being a reluctant hero has been a long simmering idea. Not too long after the introduction of Carnage is when that came to light. So it's really only what less than 2 or 3. Yeah, it's about let's say like 2 or 3 years after the introduction of. Let's say like 3 years. Let's say like roughly 3 years after the introduction of Venom. After the introduction of Venom back in like 80, 88, 89, we get Carnage in 92, and we get Venom becoming, or at least migrating towards an anti-hero status, as opposed to being like a straight villain. So, this transformation's has been long in the making, but I still can't. It doesn't jive with me. That's probably my biggest I guess preconceived notion that kind of prevents me from getting on board with this transformation,
Gotcha.
or at least character transformation.
Right. Yeah, I just after the initial, I'm not even. But when, especially when Venom got popular, which I think you'll probably know about if you paid into certain characters popular,
Hmm.
depending on the character, obviously. All right. That being said, I don't know. You have yours.
I have a few books under consideration. I really liked Strange Academy again this week because there was a lot of stuff going on, and I really like the fact that Scotty Young and Humberto Ramos are really, it seems like they're clicking on all cylinders. Obviously Scotty Young is an artist himself, so we have a writer with artist sensibilities, and sometimes that doesn't fly, but in this case it seems like he's able to juggle lots of different storylines moving forward. You can argue that some of these issues, or at least the book itself, seems to lack focus, but I would also argue that we're juggling a pretty big cast of characters here, and they're doing a really good job of highlighting the what makes each character special, and carrying the stories forward. So carrying the stories, as in several storylines forward. We're not just talking about the students, but the staff as well. The faculty and the staff. So it makes for a really interesting read, and a really a more dense read than what we're maybe used to. Like I said, King in Black Knight #1, also a surprise potential click of the week, because they really do a good job of really kind of picking apart the Black Knight in this issue. So that's why it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to read. They really pick him apart. It's really an issue of tearing down to build back up. And of course Mech Strike, because that was just a lot of fun. Makes you feel like a kid again.
Indeed.
Oh. And if it wasn't for the awful, the awful screw up in Immortal Hulk #43, that would be up there too. So I think what I'm going to go with is I'm going to go with Mech Strike. Avengers Mech Strike #1, just because I had so much fun reading it, and it did feel like it was just like a cool let's play with our toys concept and see what we can make, see if we can make something cool happen.
Was out of it.
I was about to say, before we move on, we'll never get to scale Mech Strike toys for the Marvel Legends figures, because those things would be expensive.
True.
The reason why I bring that up is, I don't know if you have this in the news. Did you put anything in the news about the Super 7 Thundertank announcement?
No, I think I have something about Transformers. not
Did you happen to
Thundercats.
see that though? Just while you're considering your click of the week, there an announcement came out, a pre-order announcement came out this week. Super 7 has the license for Thundercats toys, right? They're doing like a nice 7-inch, 6.5, 7-inch scale action figure line for Thundercats, and they're really detailed and they appear to be pretty well articulated as well, like in the Marvel Legends vein. And they announced for pre-order this week a scale Thundertank that's going to run $450.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it now.
It's a scale Thundertank. Like you can put when you take the turret out, you can put 6 Thundercats in there. Two in the cockpit, and I guess 4 in the cabin. With opening, with the where the cabin opens. So it's to scale. That thing is gigantic, and $450 is no joke. And if I was heavily invested in Thundercats, I would be on board with that in a heartbeat.
Going to be in the show notes. I'm putting.
Right.
That being
said,
the
only reason why I bring that up is because scale. If you're gonna put toys into scale with these 6 or 7-inch figures, those things are huge, and it's going to cost a lot of money. That was my only point with that.
And people need to see this. Putting this in the show notes. But for my click week, definitely Mech Strike is a Academy also. The Transformers Beast not bad. Shang-Chi. Yeah, I think I'm actually going to go with Transformers Beast. Definitely everything I have, and we unexpected. I shall go. And with that, we'll transition over into the back news. But first,
our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight, your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. And click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
we start off as we do every week with the cinematic news. Starting off, Stan Lee's superhero kindergarten trailer introduces Schwarzenegger's Captain Fantastic. So Arnold Schwarzenegger aired a superhero kindergarten, which was a series that I know I talked about something that was announced something we came to be announced or at least brought up when but apparently have a trailer for it. Around 5 children gain superpowers after the fallout from a battle with Fantastic. Powerless and serves as as showing them the value Now, if you are familiar, yes, this sounds like Kindergarten Cop. Just yes, this also sounds like High High or whatever one of those movies like that. It also sounds like My Hero Academia. Just you can't help but think not much as if it next up. Oh wait, apparently it's going to premiere. Actually, wait, it has already appeared on Cartoon Channel. I was like cartoon already out there. Next up.
Alrighty. Next up. Sorry, scrolling. Spoiler alert as we get into our discussion of WandaVision episode 3 and 4. WandaVision reveals another victim of the blip in Avengers Endgame. The cold open for WandaVision episode 4 starts with Monica Rambeau. Spoiler alert, we are a week out, so you should be up on this, but I'm going to ring the spoiler bell anyway. From here on in, spoilers for WandaVision episode 4. Which starts with Monica Rambeau, Tiana Paris, beside a hospital bed having been reconstituted. She, like so many, returns from Thanos' snap after Hulk and the rest of the Avengers time travel heist in Endgame. Then there's chaos as Monica makes her way through the hospital. There's lots of stuff going on because of people reappearing. Let's see. And that's pretty much it. That she was a victim.
Right. So yeah, and there are videos out there that are pretty much like side by sides. Her coming back in WandaVision and coming back in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Also, yeah, we come to find out that that Monica Rambeau was one of the folks that snapped, which was really sad to find out because of what happens or what she finds out after she comes back. Probably fell asleep. She was gone for a couple of years. Yeah. So I guess let's go ahead and before we actually, because I know you said you wanted to talk about.
Well, I mean, I didn't have a chance to go through the news this week yet, but I wanted to see if there's anything here that will basically touch upon what we might talk about. Well, I would have been get through. Let's say we'll get through the news, and if there's something that's not covered, we can just recap it.
Okay.
We'll get through the the WandaVision news through these, I guess, like three or four more stories.
Cool. Next up, then, that being the case, so remember last week when we put up that article that supposedly had the translation, which still actually is the case. Well, apparently, so the question of that, if you didn't watch it, somebody saw the Portuguese song that one, and come to find out, from me looking back at it, there was no English translation. In fact, Portuguese was the only one translated. None of that even matters because apparently, thanks to the writer of the show, we found out what a lullaby was actually. Doesn't seem to have anything to do. Well, let me phrase that. It's less to do with what folks were article. In fact, we come to find out that it's not according to the writer Jack Schaefer, It's not about the larger mystery of the show. In my mind at the time, it was their version of it, which actually does look at the sound like the little bit, but
Okay.
let's- the like a real heartfelt one in her own native. The last part about the sunshine. This was what I'm going to tell you. Song in my past, the longtime son that we was. Yeah, basically it's just saying that the thing pertinent to. Sorry. But the lyrics that have been translated are "We've been waiting for you," which I'm gonna sing
Yeah.
for me. Now you are here, more perfect than I imagined. A house is now a home. A house is not. No matter where you go. Yeah, those are the translated.
Where's Mr. Furley?
All right. Now, also you can safely say that maybe that and there you go. Mystery solved. Next.
Hmm. Okay, so next up, again, spoiler alerts. WandaVision's new character could have an Agents of Shield connection. So you got to bear with us here because I didn't know this until I read this article when it was posted a few days back. Um, Episode 4 introduced a brand new character, acting director of S.W.O.R.D. Tyler Hayward. A deeper dive into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., though, reveals that he may have a connection to the MCU's past. Tyler Hayward is the acting head of S.W.O.R.D. and and the person who sends Monica off to New Jersey to assist the FBI with this missing persons investigation. On the surface, Tyler Hayward seems like a generic suit who serves as a personification of S.W.O.R.D., but looking into his possible family history reveals a whole lot more. Tyler shares a last name with Brian Hayward, a character who played a role in the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Brian was an Army veteran who was inducted into Hydra's Centipede project. He was injected with a mixture of the super soldier serum, gamma radiation, and the extremis virus, turning him from a soldier into a super soldier. Um, with these abilities, Brian took part in an ambush of Shield and Phil Coulson, but unfortunately, his raid was unsuccessful, and he was captured by Shield. And while a prisoner of Shield, his X-ray eye implant activated a failsafe, and he was killed. And apparently, there was also a sister as well um, that appears in Agents of Shield. So it might be a throwaway, but it probably isn't.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, and is could almost tell when it was introduced. Like this is feels like somebody that something, but they wouldn't have just given them that for no. You never know in these situations. So yeah, that could very well. Whether we come to find out that's something behind that. Next up, though, also continue. Spoilers for episode 4. WandaVision may have introduced back Vision to back to reality.
Hmm.
And I probably won't for an episode proper. And of course, people are going to speculate. mean, and if you're just talking about in this whole article, possibly. Back. Next up.
All right, new hashtag emojis have surfaced for discussing WandaVision on Twitter, and the actors behind the characters who are making their first appearance are apparently thrilled with them. The new emojis include Monica Rambeau, Darcy Lewis, and Jimmy Woo, three characters who were in the spotlight in episode 4. We interrupt this program. That's pretty cool.
Next article I'm gonna say for Darcy Lewis. Anyway, WandaVision's Kat Dennings unlikely to be for Love and Thunder. Apparently, universe is likely to Thunder, which is obviously WandaVision as I've seen. But I've not gotten a call, so I kind of doubt it. Now, probably. But anything Marvel ever asks of if
Right.
Darcy.
I mean, I was about to say, given the fact that they are shooting right now, but they're not done yet. So
Correct.
there's the possibilities there, but also she doesn't necessarily have to be on set. And there's always reshoots, so there's always a chance that this could be going on. So, obviously she's not going to let it drop that she's going to be on, because Marvel snipers, and we just have to keep in mind that the Love and Thunder does have a lot of stuff going on in it.
Right.
It definitely has a lot of story in it because they're melding a couple of different stories together.
Well, exactly,
So
yeah, from what we know.
what's that?
I said from the stuff we know that they're
Right. But just based off that, there's already a lot of stuff going on. So whether or not they're able to put in anything more than a cameo for Darcy, might not be practical, but you never know. There's still time, so we'll see. We won't know until it's out. So
right. But also, what we come to find out in WandaVision that Darcy's now a own doctorate. Oh, she's over here doing this and her own thing. But I think also still colleagues.
Right. Right. I'm surprised there's no article here about because I know that there were some that we didn't put in anything about Randall Park actually working on his close-up magic, and showing some real character development from where he was in Ant-Man and the Wasp till now.
I have seen those. And I definitely have seen that, and the fact that people talking about hey, he should have his own show. Him just going around doing stuff.
Well, right, because there's two concepts, right? There's him going around investigating, and there's him and Darcy teaming up,
right,
to investigate, a la X-Files style.
Well, some people were just like, well, just him, and then other people have postulated, oh yeah, well, if you're gonna do that, add her in the mix also. Just agree.
Right. So, but yeah, I definitely appreciated that they brought Randall Park back. I mean, we knew that he was coming back. It was already announced. It was just a matter of when. But when he walks out and he does his little close-up card magic trick, I'm like, oh my goodness!
Right, they kept that.
It was flawless because it wasn't focused on it; just sort of happened. And Monica Rambeau, gives it some mind. I think she sort of notices it, but it's their first meeting, so she doesn't like giggle or anything like that. She's a sword agent. She's
Right.
a captain. So
Well, yeah, and she
you
doesn't
know,
know the history of it like the people on the outside. Think of it,
Alright.
she's probably just thinking of it as like, well, this is just a thing he does.
Right.
So,
Right. So there's no overt reaction from her, but I definitely know that I was not alone when I was like, "Oh, snap, look at that."
mhm.
When I was watching it. So,
Yeah, definitely
that was a
people have
lot
taken
of
to it.
fun.
So here is where I say I do love Randall Park and I do love the fact that I do kind of sort of, but I don't know. This obviously is a very different, well, not a very different. It is a different take,
Oh,
even in
definitely very.
in the MCU than even if what we see in the comic books now, much less or what we have seen in the past. In no, I'm not, no,
Because he's always been, I mean, of the few times I listened, Jimmy Woo was an obscure character that was brought back to launch this Agents of Atlas concept. And he was always played as a serious agent of Shield. Oh, starting as an FBI agent, then moving on to Shield. Going back to again the regretfully titled Yellow Claw. I believe that's where he first made his appearance, and then we got to see him in, of all places, and again another rough look at the racial stereotypes here. We got to see him in the Godzilla comic. So, you know, but all that aside, uh, they can't all be super serious agents of Shield.
oh yeah, no,
So
and I'm not saying that it should be, but I'm just like I don't know. I'm just,
right.
I do enjoy the portrayal or whatever, but even in the Man movie when
It's just great writing. That's the kicker.
mm,
You know, just the way they write the character where he's not exactly he's not exactly Drax when things go over his head,
which thankfully,
but it's another level. It's a
well,
different level. A lesser to a lesser extent.
yeah,
When people ask him things, he doesn't necessarily get where they're going. And it takes him a second, or he needs to be reminded of what the question actually was intended for.
yeah.
So it's just I like the portrayal. It makes it fun. It gives him a chance to really flex his comedy chops. So it's a lot of fun. But in any event, just getting back to the episode, what I liked about the episode is that we definitely got some answers. We finally get and one of the things that we get is uh, the reason why they were kind of hinting at episode 4 being a turning point, and that's exactly what it was. We get from a very bird's eye view what's happening, and we still don't have answers as to why things are happening, but we do get a sense of what is happening and how it's being perceived by the rest of the Marvel universe, so or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is. So that is, that's what was great about this episode. And we've glossed over the fact that both Darcy and Jimmy Woo have come back, but that was huge.
Right.
To see them reintroduced into WandaVision at the very beginning of Phase 4 of the Marvel Universe,
But also, we knew they were going to show up here.
Marvel
So,
Cinematic Universe.
right. But like I said,
No,
but also,
we knew, we
huh?
knew,
Right.
as people who keep track of these things, but knowing that the greater the greater viewership probably had only an inkling of what was going to happen. It was huge to see that these two characters are are part of the ties that bind this show into the greater MCU. Obviously, the two main characters, the two title characters, obviously tie it into the MCU. But to see these two characters from other franchises, other sub franchises of the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe come in and join this one. It's pretty cool to see, and like I said, I think people who are in this just for the movies and the TV shows, I think that was a pleasant surprise for them, and it was great to see, another form of interconnectivity moving forward.
I mean, listen, again, I knew they both were going to. I was excited. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So I guess when we're on this point, because I think the news after this, while being related to WandaVision, is probably gonna go larger. Did you about?
Uh, let me think. I didn't take notes on this.
Yeah, neither did I, 'cause I didn't think you were gonna go into it like.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to touch upon.
So here, while you're thinking of that, let me just go through. So yeah, as been stated, episode 4 kind of pretty much. Actually, I kind of love this when this happens in comic books sometimes. But basically, everything we saw in episode 3, and even pretty much going forward, kind of gets answered as this one, because we get to see situation from a different angle. Because if I don't want to go into it too much in case people still will spoil a little bit. Get to see the other side of what was going on while episodes 1 through 3 on from the view. So that like seeing everything, because you already see it was like, okay, well, when this happened, it's going to happen, this happened. Pretty much get caught up in that side. That in itself is actually a cool thing. Sometimes that happens. Comic books enjoyed it. And then we get back to pretty much get current at the end of also mirroring the pretty much mirrored the end of all Wanda. It's all all her, everything, all of that. But we also get a couple of more answers outside of going on with some stuff that we didn't see, quote unquote, out. Also, and I will just go off on a side thing that I have been enjoying the ride so far. Like I didn't have a problem with the whole sitcom thing going forward. And I know there are people out there like finally it's getting good, and finally we're getting to this and that and other and stuff. Again, going back to what I was saying about people not journey and saying like people think it's actually starting to get good when it's actually been good things. People's propensity to want to hurry it up, kind of a bummer. Kind of lose sight on the whole thing. Now sometimes like yeah, they have a tendency to go a little far with it when they're doing stuff like this, or at least right enough so far.
Well, I mean, to that point, I would say that, and I think we've talked about this before as we were going through the first couple of episodes where people were kind of bitching and moaning about, how long things were taking. And, we obviously grew up in a different time where we had to wait for shows to be broadcast, much the same way they're being broadcast now by Disney Plus on a weekly basis. So you're forced to wait, and you're just like, no, I want more. But that's great because they leave you wanting more.
Right.
And obviously, for those who end up binging this once it's all done, they won't have to worry about that, but they'll also have to avoid spoilers for the better part of 2 months. So good luck with that. At the end of the day, like I said, we've we've probably grown accustomed to binging more so over the last several years, but we remember what it's like, so we just have to kind of turn that off. At least, we at least still have that mode of being able to wait on a weekly basis for shows, whereas I think there's a definite generational gap in terms of this habit or mode of viewing when it when it comes to being able to see things all at once.
And actually, going back to the show, the episode in itself, I do love how Darcy both had their levels of interest in it, and they even say, like Darcy even says, like I'm invested, and thereby kind of mirroring some fans reaction. In fact, in a couple of different ways, if you think about what in a couple of things that happened because there are a couple of times it was like, yeah, this thing is doing this asking the exact same question or saying the exact same thing that the fans have been saying. So,
Right. What Jimmy Woo writes on a whiteboard is essentially, a summary of everything that we've all been asking.
So I do love that touch. Or like the next episode on us in hours from recording. Imagine there are going to be more people than not seeing what's going to happen. Or I guess a little more eager. I guess like I don't know if there's
No, I mean we're right on the cusp of we're literally on the cusp of getting episode 5. There's really not much else to discuss because we get our the reintroduction of these supporting characters which prove to be completely just they knocked it out of the park with that. And we get to see how it all relates back to the ending of episode 3, and we'll see how we'll see where Monica goes from here. That's really the character that's probably going to springboard out of this, so we'll see where she goes from here.
And that is definitely a character that a lot of people are wanting to see. Point on
Right.
the rest.
Right, either here or it might happen in the Captain Marvel movie. Just might lead to it.
Well, it's like I say, yeah, we don't know, but people are speculating that she already got it because some of it even speculating that she might already have came in when she came in, basically. There we don't know yet.
Right.
And the other thing about the episode is the whole thing, that kind of stuff, gotten full. I'm looking forward to seeing about whenever they decide to do it. And I know I don't have this in the news. I think Elizabeth Olsen been out there saying there's a potential Mandalorian season 2, episode 8 type Luke moment that could be coming.
Right, Elizabeth Olsen herself, I believe, teased this.
She did. And people are saying, people are basically saying it's like it's probably not going to be there, but don't know what it's going. And there's even still about who, but if they're bad and all that, that could also be. I don't know. Like I said, we still got some go.
All right, we're not quite halfway there, so.
Well, actually, wait.
We will be.
Well, I guess
we're not there yet.
Wait, how many episodes did they say it was going to be?
10.
Okay. Yeah, we're with
so
this
after the 5th episode, we'll be halfway there.
There you go. But moving right along, folks.
I think this is me, right?
Yes,
yeah.
I think so.
Spider-Man 3 social media reveals WandaVision connections. I thought this was a funny story. A new social media post from Sony features 2 potential links between the upcoming Spider-Man 3 and the Disney Plus series WandaVision. Some grab screenshots from multiple story posts that Sony created for its Flash Thompson Instagram account show polls detailing the fallout of Peter Parker's identity as Spider-Man being revealed and teasing Ned Leeds becoming Hobgoblin. The final story involves a shot of the Daily Bugle's website, which features a story on Spider-Man's identity reveal, but elsewhere in the image, there seems to be nods to WandaVision. Let me pull up this article because I did read this. There's a mention of, I believe, an Area 52 in New Jersey, which might be a nod to, Westview. And the other thing is, what's the other one?
The sword thing.
What's that?
The sword thing.
Oh, the astronauts.
Yeah.
Find those darn astronauts. There it is. Because there's something that's mentioned about losing astronauts. That Agent Hayward fellow mentions something about missing astronauts, which could be a tease for the Fantastic Four as well.
But also, there has been speculation that this and WandaVision, are going to be tied into, or not, maybe not, but basically going to be tied to which kind of makes sense with Spider-Man movie, but also potentially. Wouldn't be surprised if that's actually the case. But next up, though, speaking of Spider-Man, Spider-Man 3's set photos indicate another super suit. No Frozone set.
Oh no.
A new photo.
I was about to say, hold that thought before we move on. Did you happen to see a cosplayer that I have met before, who's actually who I'm connected to through my
the
my
Frozone?
Yes.
Yes, I did see that.
I've met him before at New York Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was at a party with him too, and I'm connected to him through my my friend who sometimes goes by Dr. Martin Luther Strange. So it's a pretty small world to see. Hey, I know that Frozone guy.
Yeah, I did see that, and if you haven't, I don't have it in.
Right, he's basically, folks. He's cosplaying as Frozone in the middle of the crazy, like 2.5 day snowstorm we had here up in the Northeast a few days ago.
Which, you know what, you got to take the opportunities when you get them, right?
Exactly. Hey, he didn't have to shovel like I did, so you know what? You can go out and cosplay all you want.
But that had to be cold in there. I mean, unless you got some lining in it.
Yeah, I was about to say he
That's
probably
dedication.
had long johns.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, but some of that depending on how your suit. Obviously, but since it didn't,
All right,
pretty well done. Yeah, you can go check that out. But back to this though. New set photos of Spider-Man 3 have surfaced and hint at a number of possibilities. Throwback to an old Spidey suit or an injured. Posted to Twitter, the photos show an unknown actor, likely Tom Holland's stunt double, clad in a motion capture. This has led to speculation from fans that the Iron Spider suit, Parker Dark, returned for the third untitled movie. Whether the suits flashback or something. However, as little is known as the film's plot, it could be the Amazing Bagman. We don't know. Probably not. Funny though. The bombastic bat. But yes, if you're watching the video, you can see the. Next up,
So is this still really a rumor if Cheeto's the one saying it?
but I still put it in there because of the fact that he's.
Right.
I mean, granted, this
And-
is a little bit more of a report on that, but especially judging where it's from, it kind of gave me a little bit of pause. But the fact that he said it, if I haven't,
Right. So,
I still want
but
to treat it as
essentially,
that.
right. So essentially, Don Cheadle has said in an interview that War Machine is going to appear in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series that is set to debut in a month. Bible spoke with Cheadle about his own Disney Plus show, Armor Wars, and how it's going to address the death of Tony Stark that happened in Avengers Endgame. It's not a spoiler anymore, folks. That was a while ago now. But yeah, so at the end of the day, we're going to get some more Rhodey, and we knew this because it had been announced, but it wasn't announced that that Rhodey was going to appear in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right, but it's also not outside the realm of possibilities that he.
Well, he's still alive.
Well, I mean, there is that, but I'm just saying, Tony being dead aside, and obviously they were on opposite sides during Civil War, but after all that got hashed out, and there's nothing, and obviously, we saw them.
Well, they basically kissed and made up
right
during game when Rhodey realized that he was on the wrong side. Right. So, at the end of the day, it makes sense that we're going to get, in these shows, we're going to get cameo appearances. So,
right, and in that Rhodey.
Or he's getting court-martialed the way he expects, so you never know.
Well, there was also that, but why that would happen. But regardless, whatever reason for it, I'm with it. Oh, that being the case. Like I said, it's not outside the realm of possibility like that would happen. Just the reasons for it we did. That being said, next up, good news, everyone. A series based on Wakanda is in the works at Plus. At Walt Disney Company has entered 5-year overall exclusive television writer, director, producer Ryan Coogler proximity with principals Lindsay Coogler, Dev Ohanian, Luke Goranson, or the Mandalorian music rather. Archie Davis.
I was about to say you know him as from the Black Panther music as well.
That also, but I'm just saying people currently would know.
I was about to say, didn't they win an Oscar?
They did.
I'm just saying.
Still stands, sir. Come on, let me get this. Let me have this.
I'm just saying. He won an Oscar for the for the score.
Yeah.
So
but not everybody, but not everybody would
put
his
that name
connection
on everybody's radar,
Right. But the Mandalorian would be more close to the people than Panther would be.
More recently.
Right. That's the thing. Anyway, Archie Davis and Peter Nix to round that up. Coogler has one note, co-wrote and directed the Black Panther movie, and the series worked on. Apparently, this deal also I said if they have a world of Wakanda off of.
Ha ha.
And I guess folks know that it was a short note comic book and from which have kept up. So yeah, we'll see. I know I also saw an article out there to say that it should be surrounding the mission. Like, but it also sounds like what kind of maybe centered around the Dora Milaje. Fine with me. All here for. no surprise to anyone. So, shout out to Brian Coogler and his people.
Hopefully, this doesn't interfere with him putting out that Bitter Root movie. So
I know, yeah, that's true too.
it does take, we hope that there is no too full a plate there. There is not too full a plate there. That is
right. I would like to believe that is a little bit. Now, granted, COVID aside, that farther along than coming to life. But yeah,
we have no idea.
Yeah.
So
next
all
up.
right. Next up, Marvel released its official trailer for the upcoming Disney Plus documentary Marvel's Behind the Mask, which delves into how themes of identity and comic books play a crucial role in the company's storytelling success. I'm looking for. Does it have an official release date? It debuts on February 12th. Okay, so that's soon. It's a little bit more than a week from the date of this recording.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I keep saying I'm gonna catch it because actually I've kind of poked at like looks like it's. The Boys season 3 begins filming. Close of season 2 finale of The Boys left both Voight and Spears fans won't have to wait too long to find out what happened. Showrunner Eric Kripke again. An image of Twitter wearing a mask. And on my way to Toronto to film, smiling under. Go for The Boys. Next.
You should watch it. Warner Brothers has released the official synopsis for writer-director James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which teases Task Force X going on a search and destroy mission. Some of the DC villains and anti-heroes called out in the synopsis include Bloodsport, Peacemaker, Captain Boomerang, Ratcatcher 2, Savant, King Shark, Blackguard, Javelin, and everyone's favorite Psycho Harley Quinn. Part of the Suicide Squad's mission will see them dropped off on the remote enemy-infused island of Corto Maltese. Now that rings a bell. The film, whatchamacallit, the film is set for simultaneous theatrical and HBO Max release on August 6th.
For those names mentioned, ooh,
some at least.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Should I? I am going to take 1, 2.
Have fun.
Zack Snyder's Justice League has been finished, according to the director. We also found out that release date has been confirmed. Apparently, there's been an update to the articles. Not going to be a 4-part thing. It is going to be, but a full, according to this full-length Max original film feature. When it premieres on HBO Max on March.
Didn't they push it to the end of the month?
Huh?
Didn't they like revise that and push it to the end of the month?
According to this article, March 18th. Which I thought it was supposed to be like in August.
So, I thought it was supposed to be. I thought they moved it to the 31st. I just want to double check. I could be wrong. I thought I saw something where they revised that and pushed it.
Details for the Snyder Cut.
That's so funny. It does say March 18th, according to everything I see here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not sure where I saw that, but I'm going to stick with what you have reported, that it's streaming 3/18, and it looks like that's what the Snyder Cut Twitter is also putting out. So we'll stick with the 18th.
And there's even 3 posters on. But yeah, I could have sworn they said August and up if that. And it was supposed to be the 4 1 hour. I don't care. Last but not least on that front, it is Zack Snyder's Justice Snyder Cut has been officially rated, and it's going to be R-rated for violence and some language. Of course, that famous F-bomb. Okay, that's that. Next up.
Aquaman 2 may start filming this summer, says Dolph Lundgren. So according to Ivan Drago, that he states that he might be heading to London for summer 2021 to start filming on the DC film sequel Aquaman 2. He says, I may be doing it. Nothing solid, but he says, I may be doing it. And they're coming out the following year in the theaters, they hope. That's what he says, as reported by comicbook.com. Apparently, he spoke at a panel during a virtual Wizard World panel this past Sunday. Okay.
Right. Next up, DC's what's the blah blah blah. Warner Brothers Animation and Warner Brothers Home Entertainment has revealed first upcoming anime. The trailer features the Justice Society in action. Wonder Woman and Jake Flash. Alongside Our Man, Black Canary, and Hawkman. They say on the verge of winning World War II, Gallant, the Flash, finds himself traveling back in time. This is going to be out in 2021, so I'm soon.
All right, Batwoman's Big Batman 89 reference may hint at villains to come. In Batwoman's latest episode, Jacob Kane discovered a photo in Kate's phone that linked Sophia to a major Batman villain with a reference to Batman 89. The latest episode just casually name dropped the Joker, or at least one of his aliases. In the episode titled Batgirl Magic, Jacob Kane, the Crow Commander, Jacob Kane, hacked into his daughter Kate's phone, only to discover she was investigating a painting by none other than Jack Napier before she disappeared. That's the reference.
Jack Napier has been a part of another comics. Slightly different take than the. Actually, I take that back. Not with the thing I've talked about last week. Nevertheless, thing. Next up, Netflix's Sonic Prime, Sonic the Hedgehog, 420. So Netflix has announced an all new Sonic Prime. Next, right in 20. Adventure will consist of 24 episodes, which will follow Sonic on a high octane. Wow's premise net as the Blue Blur Sonic Prime will be in Wild Brains show. Licensing series alongside Ben 10 creator. I would really love to look at out and I've probably said that. Anyway, that's the thing. Next up.
Actor Idris Elba and his wife Sabrina are producing Dantai, an Afrofuturistic science fiction series for anime streaming service Crunchyroll. Idris Elba serves as executive producer through his Green Door Pictures production company, and Sabrina Elba also executive produces through her company, Pink Towel Pictures, reported Deadline. The saga explores the struggle of two people in a futuristic society where one community benefits from biotechnology and the other suffers from the lack of it. So, let's see. Right. So no anticipate, and obviously animation takes a while to produce, so we may not see this actual this actual product for a while. But it's cool to see that they are working together with Crunchyroll on this.
Quickly, I saw that. I'm like, there's actually a couple other things. Or come to some good news in the last of the some great news in the last news. The Real Ghostbusters cartoon is coming to YouTube. Not unlike what Hasbro is doing. Next up, anyway, not next up. Ghostbusters fan will have the chance to relive Saturday morning memories thanks to the Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters YouTube channel will pilot watch for free. Get your giant bowls of cereal ready. Hashtag the Real Ghostbusters are bringing back Saturday morning cartoon. The franchise's account. So as its article says, only the pilot episode, not right. No word, even though we know Ghostbusters Afterlife coming. Nevertheless, if we can from I meant to look this up. I feel like Ghostbusters is out there on some platform. That's not saying that'd be cool because I have been enjoying with it, even though like you check the live stream. That's pretty much the same. Also do it's cool either way. More more um more franchise. Is what it is. It was a good show. All right. So now we're going to transition into the comic book. Start off with Damian Wayne's mother being a major part of Robin series. Robin and status roles and status quo have shifted dramatically across the universe in the era, including Damian Wayne and his mother proper in solo series. End of Dark Knight's Death Metal, Holly was amongst the totality. Aware rebirth. This heightened responsibility from her Robin launching in April, not March, by Joshua. Following up backup story, March's back. Or also of note, she's been in Future. So just showed up in Future State, which is kind of weird if you think about what's going on in Future State. I think this was as some of that stuff because she goes up at the end fall series, Catwoman. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the time frame of Future State is kind of weird, and some of the stuff is happening at times of things. Like, given what she shows up and going at the end of that other book. Um, next up,
Next up, new DC speedster Jess Chambers' brief but winding journey will continue in the Infinite Frontier new DC universe. Writer Josh Williamson tells Newsarama, DC's first non-binary character debuted as a teen sidekick, Kid Quick, as part of a gender-swapped Teen Titans team from Earth 11. That story by writer Ivan Cohen and artist Eleonora Carlini was part of the DC's Very Merry Multiverse Anthology one-shot. Chambers then graduated to the publisher's January-February Future State event that's currently underway. They appear as the Flash alongside Superman, Jonathan Kent, Wonder Woman, Yara Flor, and blah, 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 as members of the near future Earth Prime's Justice League in the limited series by Williamson and penciler Robson Roca. Okay.
speaking of, DC's new Wonder Girl gets her own series in May, which we kind of already knew. But DC's Future State Wonder Woman on after in a previously announced writer artist Jones, exploring Yara's Wonder Girl, and now DC title including Peace. May 18th. Next up,
All right. DC set to release unpublished Suicide Squad, Nightwing, and Batman stories in a new title. DC is digging into its vault with some help from cult hero Ambush Bug. It's not quite a Who, but it does sort of feel like it.
Who?
To release previously unpublished stories from all-star creators. DC weirdo hero Ambush Bug will host a new unpublished comics cavalcade style anthology limited series titled Let Them Live, which will publish previously shelved tales from DC's archives. Billed as stories of DC's Infinite Universe, the anthology series will appropriately debut on the DC Infinite digital comic book reading service, which features both new and exclusive DC digital titles, as well as classic DC comics and back issues. Let's see here. Let Them Live #1 is due out February 2nd. Okay.
Image Comics' next miniseries, Home, will explore what happens when you grow from another land into albeit a miniseries is by Julia Anto, Anna Weiss, Brian Valencia colors. This is around a boy who is separated from his mother at the border, serves as Howard. As the son and grandson of Cuban Colombian immigrants, and now a parent myself, news of the government's family's policy both broke my heart and told her in a Home is an attempt to channel those complicated feelings about what it is American into a story about empowered dealing with the cruelty of our modern preview pages of said book and issue and in comic book store.
All right, this is the story that Roddykat was referring to earlier when I was talking about Black Knight getting kind of a character rehabilitation and a revamp. Writer Simon Spurrier opened up to Newsarama about his plans to make Dane Whitman's Marvel's next leading man, starting with King in Black, Black Knight #1 this week. as I mentioned earlier, um, Dane Whitman's been through a lot. He's led multiple Avengers teams, been sent to an alternate reality and returned, and even starred in his own title a few times. Um, but because he's on the cusp of joining the MCU in the Eternals film, they're looking to streamline his history and his place in the Marvel Comics universe. So it's fair what Spurrier says here, what he tells Newsrama, in that he says, I think it's fair to say he's in a kind of sorry state. And that's exactly what it is. He's been in a state of flux since the character's short-lived 2015 post-Secret Wars title. Essentially, what Spurrier is looking to do is that he's looking to untangle, reconcile, and simplify who and what the Black Knight actually is, what he can do, and how he does it. They're essentially presenting a new take which unifies, respects, and pays homage to all the old takes while explaining why Dane Whitman has never really felt like he belongs. So yeah, like I said, they have to tear him down to build him back up, and that's where this issue, I thought, actually succeeded. So
I'm just gonna put here that Black Knight has never actually been probably like off somewhere and done that. So, but not in a.
you sure?
I'm almost sure.
I'm talking about that period when Cersei, like the leather jacket period. We all know the
Even
leather
then,
jacket.
he wasn't leading then, though, as far as I remember.
We may have to go back and do some research because I wasn't reading it that regularly, because the X books were obviously front and center for me at that point in time.
Mhm.
But from what I recall, it seems likely that he was in fact the chairperson at that time. If they were still doing the chairperson thing, where they were kind of rotating chairperson ship around,
They were, and I'm pretty certain. Because I feel like that's like after time Monica Rambeau by you, Dr. Drew. Like that was kind of around or after that.
Yeah, no, I won't say this is after. I was going to say this is after she expends all her power and kind of goes through her own unfortunate dark period where she's underpowered.
Right.
So I think that's when this happens, where the Black Knight kind of elevates to leadership.
Yeah, like I said, we'll look into that. Like I was reading about that time. I'm wanting you to. I'm saying I don't think he's like an official. I know he's been a part of groups that's been called Avengers, kind of the head of like that, but
I just remember him playing a big role in a few X-Men crossovers. There's a few, this is post I want to say this is post X-Men #1, because I believe Exodus was involved. And Quicksilver and Crystal's daughter Luna was involved too. I think that was a focus of one crossover between the X-Men and the Avengers at that point, and I believe Black Knight was leading the team at the time. But like I said, and like Roddykat said, we're gonna go back and check that out.
a feature. We'll see. Move right along though. Marvel Comics' 25th anniversary revival of 1996 foreign branding has started to expand on the 4-issue. With a pair of tie-ins now added to. First up, Young Squad, born 21, take for Marvel's champions, former champions writer Jim Zub. But anyway, in this case, Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, and Sam Alexander, the core universe Spider-Man, Miss Marvel, and Nova, respectively, will take on the totally heroic, even powers inspired not by the Avengers, who never was formed, but by the Squadron Supreme. According to this, Sam Alexander will gain Dr. Spectre's light construct powers as Kid Spectrum. Miles Morales will become the Falcon, partner of Nighthawk. Nighthawk's now deceased original sidekick. Oh. And finally, Kamala Khan will become Girl Power. But gaining her powers not surgeon myth. Actually, it's not a bad. But an artifact from the home world Power Princess. Yeah. Oh, that's a article. Character pages. Their designs. Cover.
Alrighty, next up, to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Fantastic Four, Marvel Comics has announced Fantastic Four Life Story, a 6-issue limited series from writer Mark Russell and artist Sean Isaacs, which goes all the way back to the team's 60s origins and, according to Marvel, presents their illustrious saga in a radical new way. In keeping with Marvel's previous Spider-Man Life Story limited series, Fantastic Four Life Story will start in the 60s and follow the team on a chronological history through the subsequent decades up to the present day. That's interesting. I actually read Spider-Man Life Story, and it was okay.
Mhm.
They're definitely, it's definitely like an Elseworld style take, and seeing the characters deal with chronological events as they happen definitely is a different twist, because we all know about Marvel's at first shifting timeline and then rubber band timeline. So this could prove to be interesting, and it's cool that Sean Isaacs is on it, because he's a solid artist that we know from his stint on the regular Fantastic Four book.
If you're watching the video, you can Life Story, which I feel like is going to be someone's going to color this slightly different, like rank out of what's going. Don't do that. Anyway. So yeah, this is I think I kind of did also skim. Starsky did.
Yes.
And I was like, I'll have to come back to this, because the premise is interesting. I feel like they've done something that before.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a gigantic what if.
Right.
But it's cool to see, how it progresses in real time.
Right. Yeah, which is actually But yeah, so I might check this out and go back and check. And here is the story we alluded to earlier about Immortal Hulk. Immortal Hulk artist of anti-Semitic 3. It appears this article has been updated to include Bennett and comics. So artist Joe Bennett was being accused of putting anti-Semitic Hulk number 43, which his stores this week. Hulk, Joe Body, Fix It Banner is a con artist, but the imagery is the one scene where Joe is watching the but Joe's in a jewelry shop. Something is background of the name of what it is, but it presumably as why is blocked. Also, alongside a Star of David, which is, like we said, kind of poor form that no. apparently, article. I mean, this panel evokes another Marvel controversy involving anti when artists IDFCF number of hits. One, Anna, Amma. I vaguely remember something.
Oh yeah, that was X-Men Full #1 with
Exactly.
Mark Guggenheim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a obviously an extremely dumb move because it was repeated.
Mm.
It was more than one reference, that people put together. It wasn't, and no one's going, like the defense is weak, in this case with Joe Bennett, because it's one thing to to make an excuse for messing up the spelling, and what we were saying earlier about not seeing it because your brain just sort of automatically completes the words is one thing, but putting it on top of a Star of David that's being part of allegedly the storefront of a jewelry store, yeah, that's pretty, that's getting much more towards the offensive and partial and more closer to the intentional part of it. So it's a tough look for a lot of people.
So, and also apparently, some of this, but apparently this is not the first time. Well, not screwing it. Apparently he's for. Because it says here, and
Oh yeah, I was about to say that's another thing, that yeah, he's from Brazil. Like, I've seen his art and some of the things that he posts, and his English is definitely not great. So,
but again,
which is no excuse, but I'm
right.
just saying it's just
Yeah.
not great.
But apparently in 2019, when a gay journalist assaulted by a far right journalist, Bennett said the ball should have been punched rather than slapped. Apologizing for the comment, and also that here Bennett posted a drawing of Hulk on his Instagram. A fan replied, "Oh look, it's Hulk's son." Responded with laughing emoji. Response to Charles' request comment, Marvel shared. I've been including references to famous horror directors, which he did in this. Pay respects to genre throughout the series and in Immortal Hulk Forward 3, to David Cronenberg. Tellings on the honest but terrible mistake, writing backwards. Wrong. How did this David? I feel and this troubling and often long offensive. You know what? I'm not gonna go to self. I think I've also seen apologies above. Apparently, a Marvel representative followed Bennett's statement by no companies, quote unquote, fully acknowledges this on our side as well. Marvel also confirmed all art in collection. Immortal Hulk. Apparently, that's digital releases going forward because
Yeah, I mean, what I was gonna say is they'd usually correct that stuff when it's on Comixology right away. So
right, but there's no telling where they got into it. Because
right.
obviously we don't have the numbers out.
Right, which is produced like like a couple of weeks in advance. So.
Right. Yeah, it's more than but moving right along though.
Yeah, next up, Marvel's giving X-Men fans a chance to be drawn into a major event. Whoop-de-doo. So while they're currently holding an election to determine the newest members of the mutant heroes, one Marvel fan could potentially be part of that process. Fans who are part of the Marvel Insiders program can enter the Marvel Insider Drawn into X-Men Hellfire Gala sweepstakes, which has begun apparently, and lasts until February 14th at midnight. Marvel Insiders can claim and redeem up to 2,500 points by engaging with content on Marvel.com, including videos and podcasts. Okay. I definitely have 2,500 points.
Same here. Yeah, like easily.
I definitely do.
That might be something. I mean, I don't know if this is hard and fast going to.
Yeah, they have to they can claim and redeem. No, that's weird. I don't know why they add that into the article. About the 2,500 points. I guess we just have to find out.
Yeah, because on First Blush you can assume that is 2,500 points to
Enter. Right.
Or they're just saying that hey. Yeah, but I don't know. Look. Next up, though, actually, I mean that's kind of cool, and a good way. Wow, there are ways to get points. That's a neat. Marvel adds new Masterworks collection format. Marvel Comics is offering a new version of its Marvel Masterworks line aimed at accessible, long-running line of full-colored print edition. Masterworks files classic Marvel comics in archival style format. Every few years, Marvel redress and presentation. This June, the Masterworks line will apparently expand reprint formats named Mighty Marvel Masterworks as well as featuring cover art by Joe. So, Mighty Marvel Masterworks line, all aside, closer in size to a digest magazine than a traditional. I read all this and saying like this is just another word, so it's Masterworks. Cynic in me is, but you know what? This is probably good for some.
I was never into the Masterworks stuff, so I know people who are, so they'll probably be mad that it's going to be, they're putting out something new, new styles.
Apparently, the first wave of the Mighty Marvel Max. Go out there soon. Next up.
In honor of Women's History Month, the Women of Marvel will be celebrated in an all-new variant cover collection by superstar artist Jen Bartel. The Eisner Award-winning artist has crafted 8 gorgeous covers that will adorn issues of your favorite ongoing series throughout the month of March. Okay.
I enjoy Jen Bartel's like hers, louder than a different, strikingly different. Jen Bartel is also doing. Oh, she did the cover. Regardless, good stuff.
Sure.
And watching actually I like them all, but the cinema one and fancy one too. Good stuff. Next out.
No, this is you.
Oh, Hasbro reveals Star Wars: The Bad Batch Elite Squad Troop. So when the toy company Hasbro has revealed a new form of clone trooper that will match Elite Squad Trooper, clone trooper clad in black armor, green islands. Hasbro has revealed nothing about their role in the Bad Batch, but able to show off the design as in action line. I feel probably a Death Trooper clone. Well,
What's
this,
that? The Bad Batch?
well, no, the Bad Batch definitely has, but I don't know if this particular season something coming. Which is what is the article is kind of making that's already been. Either way, it's a thing. Sure. Next out.
Next up. Wait, look at this. So Transformers Ultimates Wave 1 has been revealed by Super 7. Transformers fans were teased earlier this week, and now we see what they were what they were teasing. Wave 1 of Transformers Ultimates are here, 4 figures in all. Each will come with a plethora of accessories and in premium slipcover packaging. They do not transform. I repeat, they do not transform. Each,
Boo.
however, come with swappable parts and even some human figures. The first wave consists of Optimus Prime, the Ghost of Starscream, Bombshell, and Bonsaitron, which is allegedly mind-blowing. These will all be, for the most part, based on the G1 cartoon we all know and love. These each carry a price tag of $55 and will ship in the fall of 2021. You can check it out in the article that Roddykat is showing right now.
I'm assuming Bonsaitron probably comes. They don't transform. Boo. I was about to say that Starscream. They're just. Nah. Last but not least, though, we talked about this earlier. Y'all need to see. We talked about the 700 Thundertank. That is 140 bucks. Oh, 50 folks. Monster. And here are the pictures of it. Like I said, Agent 7 is already kind of gone over. It looks great.
Listen, it's a big investment if you're going to get all of the Thundercat figures and the Thundertank. But if you are that person that is that big on Thundercats, more power to you, because Super 7 is doing exactly what you've always wanted. And that's kind of the point of all this retro toy manufacturing. It's one of the point, it's something that Hasbro tapped into when they started making Marvel Legends that were actually what everyone always wanted. And, DC finally jumped on that train. And, even with the McFarlane figures that have come out, it's essentially geared towards the collector now more than ever. So they're more comfortable charging the price point, that older collectors might be more comfortable with. And, older collectors expect more quality and better craftsmanship out of these figures as a result. So now we've got these Thundercats figures, and we've had recent versions of the Thundercats figures come out. But according to these images that I see for the Super 7 figures, I don't think we've ever had figures better than these. I think these are, the quintessential depiction of most of these characters. So, I definitely thought about getting a version of Lion-O that came out several years back, and now I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I see now that there are even better ones coming out. And which is always the fear when it comes to getting action figures that you hope are going to be the quintessential depiction of heroes, that quintessential depictions of your favorites. But it looks like Super 7 is doing its utmost to create those quintessential versions, and now they're putting out a Thunder Tank that's to scale. It's not just for one figure to sit up front and one figure to sit at the turret, like the original Thundercats toys.
Right.
It's really intended to transport, or to appear to transport up to 6 figures at once. So that's pretty impressive.
Worth noting, it's one called the 7 Thundercats Ultimate Thundercats. Apparently, ultimates of the figure tank assumption. Also worth noting, $450. It's more expensive. Marvel Legends. I'm not saying it's a direct comparison. I'm just saying it's just. But there you go. It's right there, folks. Look at it.
Right. It's actually more of a complex thing to build, I think.
Actual more moving parts.
Yeah.
But it's cool looking. I'm not even gonna sit there and lie. It's money, but it's money. I would probably do it. Not like I love me some Thundercats. I'm not the biggest. Rhino and a Panthro. Call it a day.
That's what I was gonna say. That's the kicker. That's the kicker, because the majority of my collection is Marvel Legends. I'm pretty focused on that. But if I were not, and if I were one of those collectors that was intent on creating the best Thundercats collection ever, you can't pass this up. There's no way.
I feel like this
There's
is a
no
Lamar
way.
Lamar the Revenger. Possibly.
Possibly. I can't wait to see people put together their Thundercats collection and top it off with this cool Thunder Tank, because it's going to look cool.
Oh, absolutely. That being, we have come to the end of the news, and they're in the end of the show. First, we got one.
Our last ad read of the night, and you know what we read when it's late and I'm tired. We keep our podcast free. Please keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And we come to an end of another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Yes, you may have seen an article that kind of referenced article about some Marvel Legends. But until then, I have been Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News on Twitter and CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 Ram. PC_dirt. You can see him right now. You can find him at PC_dirt on Twitter. You can find him on the Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenet.com, and all his umbrella sites there, and may possibly on by comic review. Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of the. You can find him at that. You can also find him at CBCron on Twitter, Chronicles account. You can also find him at Nation on Twitter. That's LIQ and all one word. TheClickNation.com. But also, excuse me, comic book resources over there right in his face. Go over there, check that man's out, and actually read this. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal the Podcast Network. Yes.
Do it today.
Also find this podcast on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast. You can find us here every Thursday-ish night when we record live on the Click Nation's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/nation or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Check us out.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave us all the 5-star reviews.
Sure, all that. Smash that like button. And with that, folks, we'll be back next. I'll make sure. So happy, well, it's Black History Month, folks. Keep in mind, yes, Black History Month. Black people have been doing stuff all year. Don't let this be one time a year. Be out here. That being said, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!